This talk is about a guided tour to European IT lobbying. I, as some other people in this room, are active in FFRI, in the European IT lobbying. We did the software patents debate and were recently also involved in the data retention vote, which was apparently lost. And my aim of this talk is not to focus on a specific issue, but on a general level explain on how to interact with the European Parliament or European bodies in order to promote your own case. And I wanted to focus on where to find documents, how to retrieve documents, and things like that. But looking at some contributions at this conference, coming here by train, I made some notes, so I shifted a little bit the focus of my talk. I have also a German paper in the proceedings to this conference. This is this big proceedings paper collection you can obtain at the info desk. A guided tour to European IT lobbying. This means I'll take you step by step through what I think personally is relevant here. So it will basically mean a short introduction. This is what I'm currently doing. 10 Commandments. This is what I came up with yesterday when I collected some basic core issues which I think are relevant. Then provide an overview about databases, if the web connection works. Give you an idea on how to contribute to consultations and provide other useful input to the European Parliament, which bodies are relevant for promoting your case. And perhaps, I don't know whether the time will be left over, I will focus a little bit on the lobbying environment, what other groups are active in Brussels, often depicted as the lobbyists, the traditional lobbyists, and which are usually referred as the bad guys, those who want to promote monopolies and things like that. But I think they're just other stakeholders, and often they're not very efficient, as we learned from our debate. Now, I made this presentation during the train ride. The case is very simple. There's something like a stone on a hill, and then you have this city here, this Congress city, and there's this arrow, and something pushes against the stone. Perhaps it could be a bird or whatever, and then evil things happens because the stone moves downhill, and you can blame gravity for it. And the problem then is that probably this will create some damage. And this is a view we share among very different IT policy issues. They are somehow started, then they enter Parliament, enter the different European bodies, the Council, the Commission has its say. It's a complicated process, and in the end, there will be some regulation, and this regulation, probably bad regulation, will create damage in your community or in other communities. And so the question is how to avoid this damage. And when you are a kind of superhero, I excuse myself, I'm not that familiar with OpenOffice and its capabilities to make nice pictures during a train ride are a little bit limited. But you can interact, do lobbying at different stages. And what I wanted to show with the different size, broadness of these arrows is that you need very little power at an early stage of development, but when it runs downhill, so you need more superpower. It's always a question of time and strength. On the one hand, when you are in a debate like the software patents debate, which was started, I think, in 2002, so we had and ended in 2005, so we had a really long debate and a long time, and was delayed and so on. So we had time to organize a movement, to organize ourselves and so on, to create awareness in the community, to discuss it for a very long time with Parliament. And we stopped this directive at almost the very last step before it crashed into this little city. But what I want, and which is a personal concern of me, is that you have to, when you deal with these issues, stop them in an early stage of development. Because what you don't do in an early stage of development, you have to gain more strength in the later stage of development, which is sometimes difficult. And in the data retention debate, the movement was just not strong enough in the end. And we did our best. We tried to stop it with all our superpowers, but we were not successful. And we don't blame it on ourselves. It was just a complicated and tricky issue. So this is the basic presentation for fun here. Perhaps back to the second slide. I came up with 10 commandments, and they fit actually on one page, and I think they are very, very important. When you are in a lobbying environment, there are always differences. Difference between interests on the one hand and information on the other hand. Often the assumption is if those decision makers knew what this is all about, if they knew what this directive actually means, then they would decide differently. And of course, there's also, and this has somehow to be separated, a difference in interests. Usually, a parliament is a very fair representation of interests and interest groups. They are elected, and I know voting is not perfect, but I wouldn't really blame it on the voting procedures. Of course, you can think of a perfect parliament, which would be like a kind of random parliament, which means just randomly citizens are selected as MEPs. Then it would be a perfect representation of people, statistically representation of people, because I get a letter and you were selected as an MEP because of this kind of lotto game. But we don't have this random selection of representatives of MEPs. So we have voting rules. Special people are voted, and generally the assumption is that, and my experience of the debate is that Parliament is a very, very good body, and that our voting system somehow works. And if there is a problem in democracy, in the system, then it's not because of Parliament, but this problem originates from the whole institutional framework, of the lack of checks and balances within the system. On the European level, usually citizens think the European Parliament is really in charge of these legal proposals. But in fact, there's a procedure called co-decision. And this has to be taken like this, co-decision. This is the role of Parliament on the European level. Der Spiegel, a German news magazine, called the European democracy a minor democracy. And my personal belief is that it's true. The European framework is indeed a minor democracy because Parliament is not really in charge. And the Commission, a very important body with 26 general directorates and 26 commissioners, is not elected by Parliament. And they come up with all these proposals. They are appointed by the governments, these 26 commissioners, by the national governments. And then we have the European Council, who also shares legislative powers with the European Parliament, and which is a second body, and it works similar to Bundesrat in Germany, in a kind of federal system, which actually means that this council, usually this council of ministers, there are people, not really, the states are represented, and the states often means the ministers. The ministers on this specific topic are represented in the European Council, like the ministers of interior, or even on a lower level, their staff workers, their staff people, like people from the ministries, from the Ministry of Justice, for instance, in Germany, the Department of Justice in Germany, actually. So Bundestag or national parliaments often have hardly any influence on what is decided in the European Council, because the Council of Ministers, because the Council of Ministers is very intransparent. And there's an institutional struggle on the European level, and these institutions are a little bit unbalanced. Unbalanced in the sense that European Parliament is very weak. So our problem, we always said power to the Parliament, which actually meant that Parliament is the body that has to be strengthened. And Eurosceptics usually tend to, like the UK Independence Party, they usually try to strengthen the national state, because they think on the European level, when the national government represents them on the European level, it gives citizens more say. But the fact is that governments are not really good controlled by national parliaments. This is a problem we especially faced in the software patents debate. Lobbying, what is lobbying about? Some people say information supply, like advertisement, is officially also for information supply. Now, I think it's information supply on the one hand, assisting Parliament to do its job, and to raise stakeholder interest, to demonstrate I represent, say, security professionals, and security professionals want this or that. And we are the specialists. We know more about it than a general MEP, and we provide you with this useful stuff. The 10 Commandments of successful lobbying, this is just a list of 10 points that I think are very important and that you really have to bear in mind when you do lobbying on the European level. The first I already mentioned is start early. Start early in the whole process, in the whole legislative process. Get into it on an early stage of development. And, well, you shall be a kind of a first mover. It's better when you are the first person, the first group who knows about all this, what's going on. And if you report about the issues, if you make the news and discuss it with the community and contribute to consultations, and usually then time is on your side. You have a preparation, more preparation to prepare your positions and so on, and to gain trust inside Parliament. The second important issue, from my perspective, so the second commandment is you should get organized, and especially organized also on a regional level in member states. There are organizations like FFI, like EDRI, which are organized, but there are many in whole Europe, but there are some organizations or some interests which are not even organized. For instance, there's no European Association of Security Professionals, as far as I know. And when you look at the outcome of the legislative process, you clearly see that there were no security professionals involved. So it's very important to organize interests, be it security professionals, be it